Hello, everyone. My name is Dixie Selva, and I am a coordinator for professional development in the Office of Academics. I'm also a former teacher and early childhood specialist, and I'm also a mom who works full time, and I have three little ones doing remote learning right now. So I am in the boat with you in many ways. I've done work from home with remote learning, and now I'm working out of the home and helping manage my kids' remote learning with my mom and with their dad. So I've kind of done all of the angles as far as parenting with remote learning goes. So today I'm going to just cover what remote learning is and just 10 strategies that you can use to help your students with remote learning. So remote learning is also called virtual learning. It's basically where your students, as you know, are staying at home, learning online, and teachers set up both synchronous and asynchronous activities. And so when I use the term synchronous, I'm talking about meetings where they meet at the same time with their students. So they might send out a Zoom link and tell you, boys and girls, we're going to meet at 9 o'clock to do our reading lesson. So that would be a synchronous activity where the teacher is on the Zoom, teaching the students online and directing the learning virtually. There are also opportunities in remote learning for asynchronous activities where a teacher might send out an activity, an assignment, and say, watch this video and then answer the questions when you're done and submit them online. That is something that your student, your child could do on their own time at your convenience. And so that term, again, is asynchronous. So you might hear some of these terms. You might hear teachers using that. Synchronous just means at the same time, and asynchronous means on your own time. And know that in remote learning, all students will need some sort of support with remote learning, even high schoolers. But with the younger students needing obviously the most, just because they're not as adept with technology, with different, clicking here, clicking there, they will need a little bit more guidance from adults and caregivers to participate in the remote learning process. I personally have a pre-K student, a first grader, and a second grader, and they're all in dual language. So they have remote learning, and they also have it in Spanish and English. So I have experience with all of that. So the first thing I wanted to cover, the first tip I should say, is to set and review expectations with your child. So before you start your week, typically this is a good thing to do maybe on a Sunday evening before you start out the week, or even just any evening. If you think, you know what, today did not go the way I wanted it to, let's reset and let's set expectations for tomorrow. And really all that is sitting with your child and explaining what they should be doing the next day and what you're going to be doing and how you will be helping them. That really will set the tone for the next day and help them get a clear picture of what it is that they should be doing, what they can do, what they should not do, and ways that they can ask you for help. And one thing that you could do is just create a simple chart. If you look on the screen right now, I created a simple T-chart. On one side, it has the parent. On the other side, it has the student. And what you could do, depending on the age of your child, the younger children might need pictures because they're not going to be able to read that text. It won't be meaningful to them. So instead of writing a bunch of words, maybe you put some pictures or draw pictures that they will understand. For older kids, they will be able to read the words. And so you could just write it out on a piece of paper and say, okay, I, as your parent or your guardian, I will help you get started with your Zooms. I will come check on you and make sure you're doing okay every, 10 minutes or so. But I'm also going to be working from my computer. And I put this from a working from home parent angle. If you are a parent who's working from home while you're supporting remote learning, you will need to set the expectation that, sometimes if mommy or daddy is on their computer, I'm not going to be able to get up and help you right away. I'm going to need you to wait a minute. If you do not have to work from home and you can be there just for your student the whole time, then it might look a little different. It might say, mom will sit with you through the whole thing, but when I'm doing this, you need to wait. So really, whatever expectation you want to set, just write it on the chart so that you know and your student, your child knows what to expect with remote learning. On the right side, you would put what they're expected to do. So one thing you might say is, sit in your chair and pay attention during your Zooms. I know with my first grader and my second grader, they have totally been caught getting out of the Zooms and going into Brain Pop or going into YouTube and not being on their Zooms. And so we've had to have talks about, hey, when your teacher is teaching, you can't minimize the Zoom and go out to something else. I need you to stay and you need to pay attention. Another thing might be you're expected to turn in your assignments and complete them. And if you need help, you can always ask me, except, if mommy's on the phone talking with someone from work, you might need to wait. So these are just some things that you really need to be explicit with your students or your children about. And so that if they're forgetting what the expectation is, you can come back to the chart and sit with them and say, look, remember, we said that when we have virtual school or remote learning at home, you're going to be doing this and I'm going to be doing this. Okay, that's how it's supposed to go. And this is how we're going to be successful if we're both doing what we need to do. So again, just one strategy to help make the expectations very, very clear for your student. Another strategy is to plan the day ahead of time. And so if you see on the screen, there's that yellow paper. That's my son Brandon's schedule. So one of the first things I did with them was I took all the times that the teacher sent me for their Zooms. They have 4 Zooms a day. And so I wrote down the time and I put it on a piece of paper. So I knew that they might complete their work at different times, but they need to be on those Zooms. That was the expectation from their teacher. So I gave them a piece of paper with all the times on it, and they're pretty good with reading time. Digital clocks, like on our stovetop, there's a digital clock, so they could match the numbers, and I've taught them how to look at the clock to see what time it is. But of course, the first week that they did this, I was home with them. And so I would help monitor the time and set reminders in my phone. But the day before, we would look at the schedule and say, okay, you have Zoom meetings at these times. And after your meeting, you need to complete your assignment. So you have your reading at 7:45. And when it's over, we would go into Schoology. They don't have Canvas in my son's district. They have Schoology, which is very much like Canvas. So you would say, okay, here is your reading time. And when you're done, you're going to go into Canvas and do your reading assignment. And really focus on the most important pieces of their day, which are going to be those synchronous meetings where the teacher's meeting with them on Zoom, because that really gives that direct teach time that they really need to hear from the teacher. And then the assignments, because a lot of assignments are going to turn into their grades. And so those are really the most important pieces that I would focus on, making sure that they're in those meeting times as much as possible and that they're completing their assignments. On that schedule page, I also put down the Zoom meeting ID and password because it was the same one every time, and I wanted it to be easily accessible for my son. And I also put in other login information that they would need. So if your teachers send you login information, for ClassLink or any websites that your teachers want you to get on often, you might want to put that all in one place so that they have their schedule, they know what they're supposed to do. And if they forget any of their login information, it can be all in one place. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to post it in the chat. I'll wait just about 1 minute. After I go over a couple things, I'll kind of give a little pause so that if anyone has a question, they're welcome to put it in the chat, and I'll give you guys a minute to do that. If you don't, that's okay too. Okay, so I think we're going to go on to the next piece, which is to create a special area just for them to read, to write, or engage in other learning activities. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be as simple as just a part of the dining room table. That's how we started our remote learning at my house, was at the dining room table. I brought all their supplies, put it in a little container. I had their Chromebooks and their school supplies that they had, the books that the teacher sent. I had it all in that one location so that we're not running around the house looking for a pencil, looking for paper, looking for their books. It was all at the dining room table. And honestly, we didn't really use the dining room table, and it was kind of a quiet area of my house. It's away from the TV. It was away from the front door. So there really weren't a lot of distractions. So it was a good place for my kids to get started. So find a location like that in your home where it's quiet, there are not a lot of distractions, and you can set up space for them to watch their tablet, watch the Zooms or their Chromebooks, whatever device they have. And they should also have a space where they can get paper out and start writing all in one area. And if you can keep their books and all of their writing utensils in one location so they're not having to get up and move around and get distracted too much, that is helpful as well. And of course, make it engaging for them. So if they really, depending on their age, if they really love Minecraft or superheroes or princesses, you know, you can always like decorate the space with stuff that they like to make it engaging and fun for them. Another strategy is to schedule in breaks throughout your day whenever possible. And this isn't just for the kiddos, this is for you as well, because it's not easy to do remote learning and work from home. It's definitely not something that's just, it's going to go super easy at first. It's going to take time to adjust. And there's always going to be there's always going to be room for flexibility, or there's going to need to be time for flexibility, because you know things happen on their school Zoom. Sometimes they'll get kicked out, sometimes they can't complete something. You might be getting a phone call from work when you're trying to help them. I mean, things like that are going to happen. So it's important when you can just to schedule some times for breaks. So that might look like going in your backyard and just, you know, kicking the soccer ball around with your child for 10-15 minutes. It might look like going on a walk to get the mail and just getting some fresh air. Getting outside for 30 minutes a day, if possible, is very beneficial for adults and for children, to give you kind of that reset, give you some sunshine, some fresh air, and kind of reset you and get you away from the screens that you're looking at all day long. So when possible, I definitely encourage parents to get outside with their children. Movement is another thing. Maybe it's raining, maybe you just can't go outside. There are lots of YouTube videos and websites like Go Noodle where students can get on and they can watch fun dance videos to get them moving and get their heart rates up and get them exercising, because sitting for too long is not good for children or for adults. So it's important that you put in time in your day to get yourself moving and get your children moving, to get the blood flowing and the oxygen flowing, and it'll help reset yourself and your students' brains. And I also put in there safe socialization. And what I mean by that is, I know that it's really hard right now for students, for children, because they do not get to see their friends in person. Most of us are not getting to see our friends often in person. And I know for my first grader, it's been really, really hard for him. He has a best friend named Ethan, and he's like, "Mommy, when do I get to go play with Ethan? I really want to see Ethan." And I feel so bad because I want him to play with Ethan, but we have to be careful right now. And so what we do is we schedule in time for him to FaceTime with Ethan. So we'll say, okay, when you get your homework done, when you get all your assignments done, let's call Ethan and let's see how his day was. And so if you know that your child has a best friend or a favorite cousin or a favorite aunt or uncle or someone that makes them happy and cheers them up, try to schedule in time where they get to FaceTime with them or call them on the phone or Zoom with them, because even though it's not in person, it's still nice to connect with other people as much as possible. It really can cheer you up if you're feeling down. So I definitely recommend that you get to do that, but also that you schedule in time for your children to get to connect with their friends or their favorite people as well. Another strategy is to keep them close. And as you guys know, when our kids are closer to us, they're less likely to do things we don't want them to do, right? So I'm not saying you have to be right there all the time, but when possible, if you're working from home, try to work in a space where you can still see your children, or you can hear them. I know for me, I would work from my kitchen table and they would be in my dining room table. So I could still hear what they were doing. I could go peek in on them, make sure they're in their Zooms. But I wasn't necessarily right next to them the whole time. Depending on, your space, your availability, and your child, definitely keep them in proximity so that you can help them stay on task, because it's very easy to get off task, especially as children get more savvy with their devices. They learn how to minimize and open up new windows and find new games to download. And I know at least my kiddos do that. And so I have to be careful if I'm not gone too long, because then they'll be like, let me go look in this. And so it is a good idea to stay close so that you can check in on them and help them stay focused on what they should be doing. And if you have any questions about that, you are welcome to post them in the chat. And if I see a question, I'll stop and I'll answer that. Another thing that I kind of mentioned a little bit before was to use their interests to motivate and engage them. So this might look like finding books online or activities around things that they're interested in. I know that my youngest is really into dinosaurs and superheroes. My middle is really into Super Mario and Pokemon. And my oldest is really, really into Super Mario and Minecraft. So if I'm ever trying to engage them in something or kind of get their interest, I will try to add in, those characters. Or if they're having trouble creating a story, maybe they have an assignment, I'll say, remember how you played Super Mario Kart and you were talking with your brother and y'all did this, and then we went to the birthday party. I'll try to use what they like and what I know will spark their interest to get them started on something, or also add it into parts of their day. So it could be as simple as getting them a Super Mario pencil, or it could be as simple as having them, use Super Mario to write a story, and letting them, whenever possible, pick what they're doing and pick the stories that they read, pick the activity they do first. If they're really struggling with completing assignments, maybe you just say, okay, we have math and we have reading and science to do. Which one do you want to do first? Just give them some choice, which will help them to stay a little bit more engaged. Because I know as an adult, when we're told what to do all the time, it's not going to be as motivating as when we're given more choice. So yes, you still need to do your assignments, but I'm going to let you pick which ones you do first, and I'll let you pick the topics that you write about. Things like that. So whenever possible, try to find a way to incorporate what they like, what they're interested in, and also to give them choice in what they're doing, so they don't feel like everything's just told to them all the time and they don't ever have any choice. That's one way you can keep them interested and motivated. Another strategy is to minimize other devices and distractions as much as possible. So I know my sons all have those little Amazon tablets their grandparents bought for them. And those are nice. They have lots of educational games, but they're not necessarily what they're supposed to be on during the school day. And so I keep those little tablets in my room, and I keep them and I let them have them at a certain time of day when I know all of their assignments are done. So those devices are kind of used as like a play device because they're not really for school. So they know that their Chromebooks are for school. And so once we have completed all of our school assignments later in the day, then yes, they can have some device time and play with their little Amazon tablets and play the learning games, no problem. But I keep those hidden because it's very tempting for them to just pick them up and start playing and engaging in a game and forget that they have homework and assignments to do. That also goes for the TV. I know that with my kiddos, if the TV's on, they will not focus on anything else. They will just listen and watch the TV. And so I do my best to keep the TV off. And right now, my mom and my stepdad help with remote learning twice a week for them. And I ask them if you could just keep the TV off because then they get distracted and they don't want to do their assignments. So anything that's distracting your student from their work, if you can minimize it or keep it turned off low or turned off, that will help them to focus on what they need to do. And then of course, with my kiddos, like at the end of the day, I do give them some time to have some choice and have like fun device time. But I make sure that they do their assignments first. Another strategy is to display their work when possible. This could be as elaborate and as simple as you want to make it. Have your child help you pick out some of their best work and find a place to display it in your home. So that could look as simple as just taking their work and putting it on the refrigerator. It could also mean, maybe above their little area they work, you could just get a piece of yarn and some clips, and you can just clip on some of their writing or some of the math activities they've done. If you've printed out something that they've done, you could clip it there, or some of their workbook pages, because you really want to recognize and celebrate the work that they're doing, because it will make it more meaningful for them. Because if they feel like, oh, I'm just doing this and I'm doing this and no one really looks at it anyway, then they might not be as engaged to do it. But if they know, hey, mom or dad or grandma, they're going to hang this up and they're going to talk to me about it, it might help motivate them to do their best work, right? And teachers typically do this in their classrooms, right? Where you see walls like bulletin boards that have all the students' work. They do that because it motivates the children to try their best. And you could do something similar at home with your own students' work, and that will really encourage them, and it'll celebrate all of the effort that they put into doing their work, because they have a lot to do. Like even first graders, I mean, they work really hard, and it's not easy, and so we want to really, really celebrate them. Oh, which leads me into praise. So praise your child. And instead of just saying something like, oh, good job, I'm proud of you, those are good too. But when you give detailed praise, it really helps your student understand what behavior it was that you're celebrating. So when you say something like, I noticed that you got frustrated, but then you took a break and you tried again, I'm proud of you. That really gives them, instead of saying good job, they understand what it was that they did better because you were very specific. So saying like, you know what, I noticed that you were getting annoyed of your brother, but instead of pushing him, you asked him to leave you alone. That was really awesome. And that was respectful, something like that. I say that because my older two are like that right now. They're just like constantly bugging each other. So when they're being kind to each other and getting along, I let them know, guys, I'm so proud of you because y'all have been getting along. You've been taking turns and you're not arguing. Like, I'm very proud of that. Things like that, giving them specific things that you are acknowledging will help them understand what behaviors that you want to see, and it'll encourage them to continue those behaviors. And then number 10 is to ask for help when you need it. Remote learning is not easy. It's not easy for teachers, parents, or students. It's very new to all of us. And especially if you're trying to work from home, you know, we understand that parents right now have to juggle a lot of responsibilities. And our teachers are juggling too, because they're going to have in-person students and online students. So right now we're all kind of doing juggling acts. So when you can, ask for help either from family members that you know can help you, or your students' teachers. You know, if you're struggling helping your student complete assignments, and you might need, you know, modifications, or you might need extra support, talk to your student's teacher and let them know what's going on. Let them know, you know, I've been working from home and I can't help them all the time. Can you tell me, you know, which assignments are the most important? And then I can do the other ones later. Whatever it is, I'm sure that your students' teachers are going to be understanding and supportive. And if you're fortunate to have family members to help you, either just come help you for a day, to help your student, things like that. This is a time where, you know, it's really hard to do everything by yourself. Just try your best, but always know that if you reach out to your school, to your student's teacher, they're very more than willing to help you and your student. Also, that brings me to the resource page for parents that is saisd.net/page/parent student current student. There's a link right here, and I'll copy that to the chat. This page is, oh, it's opening up. This page is amazing. There are so many resources on it for parents, where you can go and access you know, all the parent workshops. You can access the Facebook accounts, the schedules. You can go in here. Pretty much everything you need to know you can find on this page. There are also lots of resources for Canvas as well. And so if you click here on learning resources, you can go down here and there's device resources, there's curriculum. It's a really great place to just start looking around. Oh, there's Canvas. That's what I was looking for. And just browsing through, and know that this is another resource from you from the district. Many of you are in Canvas already. I know many of you have gone to the Canvas workshops, but know that there are more Canvas resources that you can get to through this page if you have questions specifically about Canvas. So that is what I wanted to show you. Let me go back to the presentation. Let me exit. There we go. Okay. And this is where I was going to kind of open it to any questions that you have. This is my name and this is my contact email. If you ever have any questions for me that I can help you with, I'm more than happy. I am in this with you. I am, you know, learning something every day. But if you have any specific questions, I'm here to answer them for you.